What is going on, YouTube? Zero Lead here, back again with a new video, episode 24 of the Disco Era U.S.S. Enterprise tutorial. Just want to thank you very much for tuning in to today's video. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and helping me in supporting the channel. Definitely appreciate that. And today we're going to be focusing on our circular corridors. We're going to be completing our first entered circle corridor because this version of the Enterprise is actually going to have two circular corridors. One here, this will be our entered, and this will be our outer circular corridor. Now, I have done just a little bit of work off camera just because it was a little bit redundant, but our straightaway corridor that we made, our main one, I have repeated this same process 3 more times on the right, the front, and the left. And you're literally just going to be building the same design as we had for our main corridor, and your guideline is going to be your hull markers right here, and then the entered right here. So that's as far. You're going to start here, and you're going to build all the way back to this line. The only thing that you're not going to be repeating is the actual turbo lift, but you'll be building the hub essentially here. But we'll get into that. We will be building that on camera because when I do the circle corridor, I'm going to have to blend that in with it. But I just figured since I've already done it on camera, there was no need to do 2 more videos to build 2 more, essentially repeating the same video over 2 more times. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into it, and we're going to start construction on our entered corridor. Now, I came up with this design off camera. I kind of cheated a little bit. I used my Enterprise A from Star Trek Beyond as a main point of reference to build the actual design of them. Only because when I redesigned my Enterprise, I put a lot of work into making those circular corridors, and I've yet to see anybody come up with a design that was better than that, or at least in my opinion. I'm sure somebody has in their own view, and touche to them. But I'm just trying to come up with something that I think will work, and I think the design that we're going to do here is going to work out really well. Now, one thing I can tell you on this side is that I'm not going back far enough. I need to go back 1 more. And essentially, you can see I'm building on the black line. You want to build right behind that. So essentially, the blocks you're going to be adding will be more or less kind of floating because you won't have anything directly underneath them. But if after I do the entered side, if you want to skip or wait to do that, because I am going to go back and do it, it's exactly what I mean. I'm going to do the, right now we're working on the outside. This part is going to stay. I just didn't make the corridors thick enough because you don't want to make them too thin. I'd say that you want them to be 4 wide at all times. Otherwise, you're going to be bumping into walls, basically, as you're running through your corridor. So you can see on the outer wall here that I'm building, the wall that I'm adding is behind this black line. And I shouldn't say black line on here because on the lip going around here there's no black line, but essentially going along this lip here is where the inner wall is going to go. Before I was building on like this row, like going along right here. You're going to want to build 1 row behind it just to make it 4. But I'll get into that in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and bang this out. So we're just starting off basic. For the outside of our wall is just going to be this darker gray. And remember, this is not going to be the same exact pattern as our straightaway corridor. It's going to have a little bit of a different design to it. like I said, I was heavily influenced by my corridors from my other enterprise when I designed this. Um, Once the show comes out, the new Star Trek show with Pike and them, as they release more shots of the interior, I may go back and redo it. Then again, I may not. We'll have to wait and see how it all turns out, basically. But I think that you guys will like the design that I come up with. I think we're going to spend a video or two focusing on getting the exact construction right. I remember from what I recall during the build, there was one or two times that I took a break and I ended up going back to the corridors later on and making some one or two last minute adjustments to them. Because that's something I'll do too as I go through in the build. I am known to take breaks from certain sections here and there. Either I get bored of it or I'm just fed up with it and I need to walk away from it for a second, but I don't necessarily want to stop building, so I'll just move on to something else. Now you can see I'm skipping where our corner hull lines are. Because remember, on the top and bottom of our hull, all those hull lines that we had going around in the circle, I'm not covering those up because those are essentially going to turn into doorways for other rooms. Yeah, should have got a little bit faster, but we're about to come up on. I'll point that out for you guys so you know not to make your wall going over this as well. Well, yeah, there's a gray line right here. Like, I have one going at an angle here, and then there's a middle one, a back one, a forward one, then one going to the right, and then towards the back at an angle, and then towards the front at an angle. Basically, on any one of those lines, you don't want to put this wall going through. And just have a 3 wide opening. That's all you need. Nothing more. You see I'm skipping this now. This is where we don't want to build. And I've been getting some pretty decent feedback on the channel. Just want to thank you guys again for tuning into the videos. Really appreciate the support and kind words I've been getting. If you have any questions regarding these tutorials I'm doing, don't be afraid to ask. I'm usually pretty responsive in the comments section. And if I don't answer your comment directly, chances are I'll probably end up answering it in a video if I haven't answered the question already. Also, if there's anything you want to see me build in Minecraft, sound off in the comments section below. Sometimes I like to get inspired by the community, and they usually come up with some pretty cool building ideas that will get me inspired to build stuff. So if there's anything you want to see, sound off in the comments section. Anyway, moving right back into what we're working on here, you can see I'm just chugging along here, just trying to complete this pattern, this outer ring of our first inner corridor. Again, not building on this dark gray line, just building one behind it. And the wall's not going to stay this flat black. We're going to add texture to it. We just want to get something up for right now. And almost done. Oh, let's fix that. Alright, perfect. So, what I'm going to end up doing, now that we have a clearer shot of it, I can talk about it and you guys will be able to see specifically what I'm talking about. I'm about to build going along this lip right here. And when I do that, I'm going to be essentially having a wall here that's not nearly wide enough. You want it, like I said, you want it to try to be at least 4 wide going all the way around. As you can already see right here, it's only 3 wide and it's too narrow. I want to skip ahead a little bit because I don't want to spend all this time building out this thing just to come back. Okay, so you see I'm building behind this line now. And we're literally just going to repeat the same process that we did on the outside wall, but now we're doing it on the inside. Make sure don't cover up your doorways. Even though essentially this entire room in the center here is going to be our medical bay. Now, I'm not going off of any set blueprint for the interior. You'll see as we go through, like, I think this would probably be a good compromise on a Starfleet interior, considering that there's especially a lot of this Enterprise that you haven't seen. I think most of the things are where they're supposed to be, but there's some things I took some liberty on, like as far as the placement of certain rooms in the saucer section. I just kind of felt that it made sense to have the medical bay in the center of the saucer, and having 4 access points to it. That would be the most central point or most important point of the ship if there was an emergency. So that was kind of the logic behind that. You can see on here on this video I'm covering up my doorways here. I believe we're only going to be doing this on the inner ring, I think. Because like I said, this room in the center is going to become our medical bay, and it's going to have 4 main entrances, so you're going to be using the straightaway entrances, not the ones going at an angle. Now you can leave these doorways open on the other sides if you want and use that for other rooms. You don't necessarily have to copy specifically what I have as far as where your bedrooms are going to go for everything. Because I mean, there's a couple of things that you're going to want in your saucer section. I mean, obviously some of the most important things, your bridge is number 1. Number 2 is probably transporter room. Number 3 is probably the medical bay. Then after that, you're looking at your Admirals Quarters, because that was a thing people always forget about in Wrath of Khan, that Kirk's quarters were not Captain's quarters, they were Admirals Quarters, because that was his rank. That's why in the later Star Trek movies, when he was demoted, I don't know if you noticed, but his quarters were a lot smaller. That's because, you know, he got demoted from balling out Admiral, and now he's back down to Captain again, so he was in the smaller quarters. So you've got the Admiral's quarters, you've got the Captain's quarters, and then you've got Junior Officer's quarters, and basically your officers. After that, then you go to General Crew quarters. And then you can throw in like maybe 1 or 2 science labs, and then there's going to have to be a room for the torpedo bay. That will be important on this Enterprise because the torpedo launcher is actually in the saucer section on this ship. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. Want to jump back in what we got going on here. Think, Now see, that is still pretty narrow. And this is what you don't want. This is too close together. I think I might have made an error somewhere. Yeah, I don't think I rewinded just far enough yet. Let's go just a little bit further back. So if you've added this, just delete going down to your main walkway, and this is going to leave a black strip going all the way around. And then we're just going to bring the wall back one more. So this will make it 4 wide now. I just didn't go far enough in the video. Because before I extended it, it would have been 2. When I extended it out, what we're deleting right now, it's 3 wide, and then we're going to be moving it out 1 more to make the hallways 4 wide. And it'll be just wide enough to where you're not walking around through a ginormous room. That's something, regardless of the ship, the corridors were never very big, you know, because at the end of the day, the Enterprise, especially this version of the Enterprise, was based off of a submarine. A lot of people don't realize that, is that a lot of the episodes were based off of naval submarine combat, like some of the best episodes from TOS. So that's why, like, you know, kind of has like a very submarine look to it. And you see that across all the ships. Now, I believe, like I said, on my inner circular corridor, I only have the main straightaway hallways as openings, and they pretty much, it's just as an extra way to get around the ship. Because that was one of the things that I wanted to change on this version of the Enterprise. When I built my Enterprise A, I have 2 sets of corridors, but the inner corridor is actually really, really small, and it's almost a cop-out. But that's pretty much because the ship didn't originally have it, and I had to design it in later on based on what I had inside the ship already. And that's honestly why, you know, I tell you guys to do this first to save yourself from making that mistake. So like I said, a lot of times, if I say not to do something and try doing it this way, it's because I've already done it, and it ends up taking a ton of work to get around it. And I'm telling you, if you don't get your corridors right, and you have to go back and fix them after the fact, I mean, it's near a nightmare. It really is. Because you end up having to rework so much of your ship. So you can see I'm just adding a single line going all the way around, one behind this dark gray line, and I switched it up. Now we're using a gray block, because I believe on our left side of our corridor for the circular portion of it, the left side of it is going to be gray. Will be gray and red. And then the right side is going to be that darker gray, red, and I think a little bit of white. But it's going to look really good. Alright, I'm just banging this out. Let's get the rest of this done, then we're going to add a couple more rows to this. Not a super long video today, only about 35 minutes or so, but I don't think we're going to be using up that whole 35 minutes because I've already fast forwarded a little bit. So we might end up clocking in at about around 20-25 minutes, somewhere around there by the time this is all said and done with this episode. So now we're going to start adding in some texture. I'm basically trying to gauge how this is going to look before I invest too much time in building my wall up on the left side. So I'm literally on the top row of our right side of our inner corridor. On the top, I'm just adding a red strip, which I think I'm going to end up taking off. So I'm just kind of looking at it to see what I want to do. I think that's ultimately what I end up doing. I deleted that, but I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to go back and add that back in. Now you can see right now I am skipping over my doorways, but I'm going to go back and open them up. And I still think we have quite a bit of content to release on this specific tutorial, because I mean, we're still really just getting into the beginning of the interior design. There's still some things to do on the exterior, so there's still some work to do, but I'm hoping very soon I'll be set on what my next build is going to be, and I'm going to start construction on that before this is done, so hopefully I'll be able to just transition over into the next build seamlessly without having any delay of content. That's what the goal is right now. But I haven't basically decided on what I want to do next. I know I want to do something, and I've got a lot of passion all of a sudden now to build stuff on Minecraft, so I'm 100% behind it. Like I said, I'm just not set on it because there's a couple of cool things that I can do. I had a few people suggest Voyager, and then I had several people over the last couple of years mention Enterprise D. That could be a lot of fun. I don't know if I'd do the Enterprise D though, to the scale maybe that everybody's expecting it, just because that would be a ridiculous build and it would take up an incredible amount of time. But I think to do it justice, I'd have to make it, it would have to be probably the biggest ship that I've ever made. If I did decide to do that. But I don't know. I mean, if there's something that you guys want to see me do, let me know in the comments section. So you can see on my, I want to hop back on what I got going on here. You can see in my inner part of the ring on the left side, on the gray side, going, this is technically on the top row. I've cut back in one and I'm just adding a red strip going all the way around. We're just going to complete that all the way around. And like I was saying in the last episode for the corridor tutorial, there's not a lot of blocks that we're using for this. It's pretty simple. We're using the grays, the reds, and then a couple of white here and there, and then the sea lanterns. And that's basically it. It's not hard to do. Every once in a while as accents, we've got the almost black concrete blocks that I'll put in, but there's not a ton of blocks at all. I think even on the circular corridors, I'm pretty certain that I used the halves quartz slabs too. And pretty much what I'm trying to achieve here is to make it look kind of where it's going like in an oval. Because if you think about it, pull up a picture of, I don't know, the Enterprise A corridors, or I think that would be probably the best one. And if you notice that the way they they basically they kind of go in a, well, not necessarily oval. They have like a shape to them. We're going to try to replicate that, but a little bit differently because it's going in a circle. Basically, what we're going to have to do is that on the left side, it's going to be curving this way, and on this side, we're going to be making it curve this way. So it should be making a nice swish going in this direction, and it'll give a better illusion, I think, of the circle corridor, kind of how it should look, or the best that I can make it anyway. So you can see now I'm starting to prep to close in the roof, and literally just on the hull outline, directly underneath it, the upper ring, I'm just adding the gray block underneath that, going all the way around. And that's why you use different colors there, because if you see there, I was able to differentiate the two between the quartz and the concrete to find out where I had to put my block to keep it correct. I do hope that you guys are enjoying these tutorials, especially in the last couple, because I've had, ever since I've had this YouTube channel and I started doing builds in the Enterprise, we'll say that I've had several people ask me to do a tutorial on my corridors. So, I mean, if you're still hanging around the YouTube channel, this is for you guys. Like I said, there's a couple parts that's going to be in this, and there'll be other corridors that I build as well, because those corridors are not limited to just the saucer of the ship. I have those corridors in a couple other sections of the lower hull too. So, I mean, it's definitely in different places. It's basically on the outer wall, just adding a row right behind, right against what we just added. It's literally just closing in our roof. Then we go back on the other side and repeat the same process. If you really wanted to, on that middle gray line, you could replace that with sea lanterns. You can also have that in the middle on your floor going all the way around, and then place carpet on top of that. You can also have that going along the walls on the left and right side of your walls of the corridor, because if you look at the picture of the Enterprise, along the floor it has those white running lights. I decided to take that out of my ship because it didn't really look all that great when I added them in. I might try to figure out a way to bring them back if I can come up with a pattern that looks good. Got the hiccups there, excuse me. Anyway, moving on, just trying to bang the rest of this out, and then we're going to repeat the same process on the inner side and then get a little bit more detail done, I think. But we're starting to wind down towards the end. I can't believe we've already gone through this video that fast. And then we fast forward a little bit, but we still got a decent amount done in a short period of time. Because, I mean, once we get the outer corridor done, then we can close up the saucer. Because, I mean, you don't have to have your corridor done 100% in order to close it up. You pretty much just have to have the outline done and the width done. Like, as far as the detailing for it goes, you don't have to have it opened up. We're just trying to make it a little bit easier so that if you have to fly around and look at it from the outside, and if you have to make any changes to the actual shape of the walls, you can do that without it being a pain in the butt. And now in this inner, I think we're going to be adding 2 sets of rows in each section of the cut. Literally just closing in the roof, but we're not going to be bringing it up to cover in the red. There's no need for the extra blocks, so might as well just not cover it. And that's going to be another thing too. You don't have to worry about filling every single square inch of your Enterprise, or any ship for that matter. Just once you get your corridors done, then we can start worrying about the moments. And you guys, I'm sure you've heard me talk about this in my other tutorial, where focus on your moments and the things to put inside your ship. So what I mean by that is that if you look at any single episode of Star Trek or the movies, like I said, what are the things that you see in those episodes of movies? You see the bridge, you see the transporter room. On the Enterprise A, when like the Enterprises or the shuttles are coming in, Scotty's up inside the shuttle bay room, you know, working on stuff, making sure everything's safe or whatever. So it's got to have that glass window there overlooking all that. You know, certain things need to be there, you know. But after you start filling, after you have that stuff in, then maybe you can start to have a little bit of artistic fun and play around and add some other things that maybe aren't there or that you want to be there. And if you don't need to necessarily have, or you don't want to have it, then just fill in the space or just close it off. Nobody's ever going to know that behind the wall there's a little bit of a gap, not unless you point it out to them. But you'll see what I mean as I'm going through this tutorial in the next couple of videos, when we really start getting into the interior of the ship and placing stuff down. Because like I said, the way I do this, a lot of the ship is actually pretty full, but there is like some tiny gaps here and there. But again, I wasn't worried about filling every single square inch. But when you go through the ship, it looks very, very full. It doesn't look like it's empty by any means. It looks like when this thing is done, I'm going to put a video up and take everybody on a tour of the interior so they can see it, but it looks pretty good. I was tempted to show a little bit of it in this video, but I think I want to wait a little bit. Trying to get a few more views on these videos here. I know on episode 1 is doing pretty good. I'm at about 300, but if I can get a couple of these other videos in the couple of hundreds and thousands, that would be great, because I know that my episode 1 for my Enterprise A mock tutorial is already at like 26,000. So I'm hoping that we can start pumping in some numbers there, get some views. And I'm one of the only people that's actually done a full-blown tutorial for the Enterprise. Anyone else has just done a showcase. So if you're interested in doing this, this is the tutorial for you. Now I do want to touch on what I'm working on here just a little bit. You can see that I'm starting to add in my lights. And until you know for certain where you're going to be putting them, I'm actually going to have to move those over just a little bit maybe. Yeah, I went out a little too far. But you can put a couple of lanterns on the ground just periodically as you're going through the ring to get yourself some light. You're going to have to until we get all of our lights situated. Oh, got a little bit of an opening here. Let's close that up. And at this point I'm just going to add in a bunch of lanterns going around just to give myself a little bit of light, so this way on my next go around in the inner corridor here I can add in the last bit of detailing and finish the floor here and finish the roof and this corridor, and then also add in the last of the lighting. But I do think that's going to wrap up episode 24. I do hope that everybody enjoyed this video today as much as I enjoyed making it. I've had a blast working on this tutorial series. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button in helping me in supporting the channel. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow for episode 25. We are chugging along here. Still have a lot to do. 1,000,001 things left to do on this build. You can always tune in for new videos Monday through Saturday. The only day I'm not going to have new videos up is on Sundays. So definitely check back tomorrow for episode 25, and I will see everybody tomorrow. I hope everyone has a great day.